Welcome to Between Sunday, a show dedicated to Jesus-focused conversations around our everyday life journey questions that happen in between Sundays. And in today's show, I want to dig into why we might not have a clue what the person in front of us is saying. You know, we've been in those conversations, the person in front of us is talking, we haven't got a clue what they're saying, but we're too embarrassed to ask them explain it. And that's what this show is all about. Well, hello everybody. My name is Matt Edmondson and I am the host of this new show called Between Sunday. And the reason I wanted to do this show, if I'm honest, is because, well, I think like most people, I'm starting to get slightly frustrated with Sunday, and I get frustrated with it on two levels, right? Level number one is I speak regularly on a Sunday afternoon, and it's a wonderful privilege, and I love to do that. And I usually would like a lot more time than I have. It's very hard to condense what I feel God's saying down to the 20 minutes or so that we have together, right? So on one hand, I want more time, but on the other hand, I'm also a listener to sermons, and I find myself more often than not thinking, I wish this speaker would condense down what they're saying. And so it's a real tension. On the one hand, we want more time as speakers, but on the other hand, as listeners, we want more condensed time. And part of that is engagement, part of that is understanding what's going on, and so on and so forth, right? So this show is called In Between Sundays. It's where we're going to take this topic that we talk about in the Sunday live stream, and we're going to look at how to apply it to our lives during the rest of the week, right? We're going to bring maybe questions and ideas that we couldn't cover on Sunday. So hopefully you're going to find it edifying. Hopefully you are going to find it challenging and fun. And it goes without saying that if you've not checked out our live stream on Sunday afternoons, you are more than welcome to join us. You don't need to listen to this show, but we do follow on sort of some of the stuff that we talk about on Sundays, and you can check out the live stream service that we have on www.frontlinecity, so you can check that out if you would like. Now, make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you consume your content. Do engage with the comments, give us a thumbs up, give us a good review if you like what we're doing. It all helps, trust me. If you could do that, that would be amazing, be great to connect with you. Now, in this week's live stream, we looked at a conversation that happened with Jesus and the disciples in Mark chapter 9, verses 31 through 32. Okay, and in this conversation, Jesus predicts his death, burial, and resurrection. Okay, so let's bring it up and you'll see what I mean. So here, Jesus said to them, the Son of Man is destined to be betrayed and turned over to those who will execute him. But after 3 days, he is going to rise again. But the disciples didn't have a clue what he meant and were too embarrassed to ask him explain it. I just love the way the Passion Translation puts this. The disciples did not have a clue what he meant and they were too embarrassed to ask him explain it. Now, have you ever been in a situation where someone has said something, you just didn't get it, but you were too embarrassed to speak up and ask about it? We've all been in them, right? We've all been in those situations. And, maybe that's happened to you recently. The truth is it happens to us all a lot, right? We find ourselves in situations like this. And for me, I tend to find myself in situations like this at work, and it is usually because of the use of 3-letter initials used to describe things. How many of you know what I'm talking about, right? The other day on Sunday, I was talking to Martin Langston, and if you're familiar with the City stream, you will know who Martin is. It is the very same Martin that has shared with us a few times. And I was talking to him about getting an upgraded computer, a better spec computer to do the live streams on Sundays, okay, one that's quieter, not as loud in the background and all that sort of stuff. And I wanted his opinion because Martin is secretly a bit of a computer nerd, right? Now, when we were talking, he told me that what I really needed to focus on was the GPU. And he kept mentioning this GPU, these 3-letter initials, right? Now, I actually had an idea of what he meant, right? And given that I am in fact a digital consultant, it's part of my job, and people pay me to travel all over the world to talk to them about digital. If there's one person who should definitely know what he means, it should be me. But I still sort of got that feeling in the back of my head, you know, that sort of spider sense. I get it every time someone uses a 3-letter initial. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that I've learned. I always ask them to clarify it, right? That sort of spider sense goes off that sort of says, maybe you don't really understand what he is saying, right? And so I said, Martin, dude, listen, what do you mean when you say GPU, right? Now, I didn't have to. I could have left it alone. I could have gone to Google it later, or maybe even just sort of try to sneak it on my phone there to try and figure out what he was talking about. But I didn't do that. I wanted to push through despite the embarrassment and possibility of experiment. I mean, Martin could have turned around and gone, why do you not understand what this is? You are a consultant in this field. What's wrong with you, right? So I could have been embarrassed, but I've learned I need to get him to clarify what is going on. I needed to understand, right? So I pushed through. Now, if you wanted to know what Martin was talking about, he was talking about the graphics processing unit, or in other language, the graphics card that comes inside of a computer. He couldn't say graphics card. No, he had to say GPU, which is different to the CPU, which is the central processing unit. So aren't you glad you tuned in today to get this quick computer lesson, right? So let me ask you, why are we afraid to ask these clarifying questions? Well, according to Harvard, they reckon there are lots of reasons that we don't ask these types of questions. Number one, people can be a little bit egocentric, i.e., I don't care about what you're talking about. I don't care enough about what you're saying to get clarity. I only care about my own opinion, right? So I could have thought to myself, you know what, I'm talking to Martin about this, but I don't really care what he says. I've already made my mind up. Usually happens when we talk about PCs and Macs, but that's another story. The second reason, people may be apathetic. They simply don't care enough about you to warrant asking questions. They don't care enough about your opinion or what you have to say. Number three, they may be overconfident in their own knowledge or think they already know the answer. I am always in danger of that when doing consulting, let me tell you. And number four, I think this is probably the most common one and the one which will resonate with you the most. I think it's the key one, and that's we worry that we will ask the wrong question and be viewed as either rude, which is a problem if you're British, or incompetent. It's not so much of a problem, but the rudeness is, right? Now, I wonder if that's what the disciples had going on up here, right? Were they worried that they would ask Jesus the wrong question? Is that why they didn't ask? Yet if you read it, right, all of them in the room were thinking the same thing. Now, have you ever been in a room where someone was talking, you didn't understand necessarily what was going on, you had a question, but you didn't want to speak out and ask, because you didn't want to look foolish, right? But somebody else did, and you were totally and utterly relieved that someone asked that clarifying question, because you get your question answered without risking looking like a fool, right? We've all been there. I have been there many times. And I guess if I'm honest, what I'm trying to do is challenge us to say that maybe we should be the ones that ask those clarifying questions. We could look incompetent or, dare I say, rude every now and then. But we can be quick to apologize for that. But at least we create clarity, and clarity is super important, okay? Now, questions create clarity. Let me say that again. Questions create clarity. What would have happened, for example, if one of the disciples had taken the step to ask for greater clarity? It's a good question, right? And here's the thing that is absolutely fascinating to me. I think Jesus would have discerned quite easily that they did not fully understand what he was saying. I think he would have seen it on their faces. I think he would have discerned it. You know, this is the Son of God after all. And in fact, we are going to see in a few chapters' time that Jesus is going to ask them, or is going to talk to them about this same idea again, right? Now, if you haven't been following along with the City broadcast, if this is your sort of first interaction with us, a big fat warm welcome. But what we're doing is we're working through the Gospel of Mark, and we are on chapter 9. We're going to get through in a few chapters' time. Like I say, we're going to see Jesus have this conversation again on a Sunday afternoon. So do, like I say, connect with us if you'd like to. Now, the disciples had the opportunity to ask Jesus to seek clarity, but they didn't. Now, was it pride? Was it fear? Was it, in fact, worry? Maybe, just maybe, it was all of them. But the result was they didn't have the clarity. So they didn't ask the question, but they didn't get the clarity that they needed. And I think Jesus would have explained it more. I think he would have dug deeper if they'd have asked about it. I don't know about you, but sometimes I can be a little bit like the disciples when it comes to the things of God. I can find myself in situations where I can't really see what is happening, and I've not really taken the time to seek God about it and get that kind of clarity. And I walk around in what can only be described as a bit of a haze or a bit of a fog. And in those situations, it's kind of easy to blame God and say, God, what's going on? Why am I feeling like this? Why am I confused? And maybe it's not really God's fault. Maybe it's mine for not speaking up about it or asking questions around it. So my question for you today is pretty simple, really. Where do you need to speak out and ask questions that bring you clarity? Okay, where do you need to speak out and ask questions that bring you clarity? That is the question for today's Between Sunday. I hope you've got something out of this. I hope you're going to enjoy these shows. I'm really excited about putting them together, these sort of little snippets in Between Sunday, which sort of bring this extra stuff to you. As I said, make sure you subscribe wherever you consume your content. Do comment, do like. It'll be great to hear from you. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day, and we'll be back again very, very soon with some more content. Thanks for watching. Thanks for participating. Great to see you. Bye for now.